Hello, my name's Philippa Waller.
My name is Penelope Waller, and we are two of the directors at 4D Human Being.
And welcome to the 4D Human Being podcast. What's it all about, Pen?
It's all about your personal and professional relationships. It's about your communication skills, how you lead, how you work and build teams, how you are looking after yourself and your well-being, and how you are much more at choice. What do we mean by that?
Well, sometimes we can get a little caught in patterns in life and we can all be a little bit on our automatic pilot. So 4D Human Being is all about helping us get back to choice and being a four-dimensional human being. And your fourth dimension, of course,
is intention. So whether it's about your impact, your leadership style, your team dynamics, whether it's about your well-being, whether it's about your communication or your presentation skills, anything that involves human beings interacting with other human beings, 4D Human Being are here to help.
we're going to take a deep dive and look at some tools, insights, theories that are going to help you go from a 3D human doing to a 4D human being so that you can happen to the world rather than the world simply happening to you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Well, we're going to talk about emotional energy.
Yes,
in this, putting the fizz back into.
You've just expended some emotional energy, getting all of the tech set up, and particularly the iPhone balanced, so that we can film.
I cannot be alone on this. That, you know, because it's not a TV studio,
Wow.
as much as we do use a lot of media. So one is sort of somewhere between a professional setup and all the, you know, the Rode mics and but also it's also an office and a working space, so it has to keep being moved, which means either in my office or outside on walks or wherever I'm filming, I am constantly looking for little niches in fences or trees. You are.
I've been there with you on many occasions.
You can prop an iPhone, and I don't think with all of the selfie sticks and clips and tripods, I don't think
the solution has been found. I think the footpath maintenance people or the forestry commission need to go around and make little nooks and crannies in trees for social media purposes. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Especially, all you'd have to do is go, where are the really good backdrops?
Yes. Where does the sun hit?
Yeah, where does the sun hit? And where are the really nice views?
Yeah.
That's where people will want to film.
I do think you could give a selfie stick a go. No?
I could give a selfie stick a go.
I mean, obviously, you then got one hand.
I think I've resisted it, Pen.
You have, but it might be the answer sometimes.
Anyway, it's definitely because we all have bugbears, emotional
little triggers,
little hot buttons, shall we say? And two of mine are definitely trying to set up an iPhone to get a good angle, and packaging that's hard to open. That can send me, you know, through all the challenging moments I've had in my life. Can send me.
Well, it's really interesting, and I'd refer to our father in this as well, who's no longer with us. Bless him. I remember we had a little prang in the car. He bought us a car to share, the three sisters.
When we first passed our test.
And we thought, oh no, he's going to be really cross. Didn't bat an eyelid. But you'd move a piece of paper that he wanted for some part of his work, and it would totally trigger him. So it is really interesting.
It's very, very personal.
The things that trigger us and the things that don't. And it's often quite surprising, and we're often not really aware of the things that trigger us, and they can be really tiny as well. There's a really good reason for that.
Seemingly tiny, but below the iceberg, under the water, it's hitting something. And we talk about this in trauma work. It's not the event, it's what it's pushing.
Yes, and mine is, and I'm almost prepared to say my only one is, but that probably wouldn't be true. But
no.
But it's so big compared to the others, is dealing with utility companies.
I know, that's not your favourite,
I literally can't. And I think I'm a pretty patient, organised,
very practical, pragmatic,
There's something about those phone calls. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking today in the Put the Fizz Back in 2024, 4D Fizz, and we're looking at your physical, that's the dog, using his energy to give himself a good scratch.
Oh, yeah.
Your physical, emotional, intellectual, intentional, the 4D, we'll come to that later on in a few weeks, energy, and obviously always in the context of relationships and the environments you're in. So we're going to be looking at those 4 types of energy. We've looked at physical, we're now going to talk about emotional, which is really the big one, isn't it, in many ways, because it's just having such an influence on our lives.
In fact, we're going to have to really think about how we do this podcast, because we could easily go down rabbit holes and we could easily talk for hours.
Which is exactly what emotional energy does to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing probably to say is that when we think about our energy, and we spoke last time about our physical energy, both internally and the impact that we're making with our energy, we can think that energy is physical, which in many ways it is. It manifests itself physically and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't often think about emotional energy in terms of where we draw our energy emotionally and where we expend
where we
our
put
energy
it.
emotionally. And possibly it's the biggest dimension in terms of where the energy ebbs and flows.
Well, and in terms of the quality and experience of our lives, it's just huge. So we're going to be talking about emotional energy, how it can drain us, how it can energize us, do we know where and who, and all of those things. And also, of course, why it's important to take care of our emotional energy and to refuel and recharge and re-energize emotionally. And also, of course, to be really aware of getting on the right side, if you like, or the kind of more positive side of emotions, so that... Again, always so that, now what is the question that we ask at 4D. So that in your life, personal life, relationships, family, friends, neighbours, hobbies, and work, team, business, leadership, all of those things, you are in a place where you can genuinely thrive and connect and collaborate and get passionate and have visions about where the future's going and enjoy and feel good.
And create the experience of life that you want, both for yourself and for other people.
Yeah, and not, of course, spend most of your time just being annoyed and irritated by everything that happens.
This is my new kind of favourite sort of touchstone in the work that we do. And I very often say, and I'm sure I've said this before on the podcast, that we can think about the 3 ways to live our lives. And you can really think about this in terms of emotional energy. Bear has stolen your therapy heading. There's 3 basic ways that you can live your life. So the first one is, the world is happening and we don't like it. Emotionally, we kind of collapse and feel victim to it, and sad, upset, self-critical, whatever it might be. The world is happening and we don't like it. Emotionally, we can kick out, get angry, complain, reactive, etc., etc.
Don't know what you mean. Never happens.
Never happens. The world is happening to us and we don't like it. We can change something here, and that could,
and when you say here,
in ourselves, we can change something in ourselves, and that could be how we think. It could be a behaviour, it could be a habit, it could of course be change our emotional state. And we're going to talk about the fact that perhaps we don't realise how in control of our emotional state we can be, versus we think it's happening to us. Emotions happen to us.
I just want to say, your dog is currently not in control of his emotional state.
What is he? Oh no,
because I took the teddy bear away.
Oh, you want the teddy?
I know, but it's not. It's not a dog toy.
It's not a toy. Actually,
it's actually not a toy. Oh, Bear. Yes. So I think, just to recap that a really important factor in emotions is that, of course, they are a lot of the time
happening
to us. And they are driving our behaviours, actions, thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah.
And we don't even know that's happening, first of all, because you can think about that you, the world, when you're young, create your mind and emotions. And then guess what happens as you start growing older? Your mind and emotions create you.
Yep.
They will start driving you around and we won't even be conscious of it, firstly. And secondly, as you say, I think there is a sort of general, it's not even a belief, we don't even think about it really, a general sort of acceptance that emotions are emotions.
Yeah, and they happen to us by events or people in the outside world.
And you can't change your emotions.
No.
That you can't change your emotions.
No.
But we talked about this on the walk this morning. Of course, we know that you can.
Yes.
Because if, for example, and I've had this before, I was in a really terrible mood. This is years. No, this is a long time ago. I was in my 20s, and I was in a really sort of low. I was really irritable and low, and it's like on the sofa going grumpy face. And I remember you called, and something had happened, and you needed me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come now. Something difficult's happened, and in a click of a finger, my shoes are on, my energy was up, I was out of the door.
Feeling quite different,
got on a tube, I'm off. So it's not that our emotions can't change quickly, it's just that we often wait for the world to give us another priority emotion, or another emotion. Yeah. And then we go, and then we're just in that state.
And then that emotion is sitting in the driving seat, driving us along, and then maybe another emotion will come on, and that will sit in the driving seat.
But of course, in that moment on the sofa, there's nothing to say I couldn't have decided.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pop that emotion somewhere else.
And I'm going to decide an energised, motivated emotion is going to drive me. Because it did.
That's right. And the thing I would add to that, if you take that a step further, is, and we've said this before, is that very often when we talk to clients, they'll say, but that's authentically how I'm feeling in that moment.
Oh, nice pen. Yeah.
Which there is a truth to that.
That is authentically me. The energy in motion around your body at this moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
And of course, there is a truth to that. That is how you're feeling. And when you realise that although that is authentically how you're feeling in that moment, you have a choice to authentically feel differently.
That's it. That's it. It's exactly right. And it's feelings are arising. It's not who you are.
No.
It's that feelings are. So that takes me to our sort of.
And it's almost like, which ones you grab onto. Like feelings are arising all the time.
This is what.
I'll grab onto that one and pop that in the seat. Yeah. And we don't realise we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't realise we're doing it. So exactly that. So here are 3 things to think about as kind of core ways of thinking about emotional energy. I know, but it's not a dog toy. That isn't my point number 1. Firstly, emotions are temporary and constantly changing. They're like the weather. Secondly, emotions really are messengers.
Yes.
And we need to listen to them, open them up. We said this before, and do something about it rather than just sit with the envelope and just be screaming.
Well, and think, this is my conscious self. I'm feeling like this. It's just like a piece of information.
Yeah, you just need to open it, read it, move on. And then thirdly, you are not your emotions. They are merely visiting patterns of energy.
I love that last one.
Patterns of energy that you can choose to change. So let's talk about...
That last one is big.
It's huge, isn't it? And it's challenging. It is, though, isn't it? Because when we're wallowing in the mud of what feels like a really justified irritation with something or somebody, at that point, and I know that I felt this, you don't want to move from that place. You don't want to get a different emotion driving your bus. You want to stay right in this justified emotion because that person was wrong or that person said something, and you are absolutely right to sit and wallow in that feeling.
Yes. And when we're sitting there, we want the other person to change or perhaps be punished or feel shame or admit that they're wrong or whatever it might be, get their car out the way, whatever it might be. And therefore, we have put ourselves in a position where our emotional state and therefore our experience of life is reliant on somebody else choosing to do something differently.
And is diminished because they're not going to.
What a position to put yourself in.
Exactly. So it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So when we think about emotional energy, the first thing to say is we're wasting a lot of energy. Exactly. So here's some questions.
I'm going to come on to something else in a minute.
Do you believe that you have control over your emotions? Do you purposefully spend time with people or doing things that make you feel positive? Do you recognise not just when you're feeling difficult emotions or negative emotions, but when you've been hijacked by them, like they are totally driving the bus of you? And do you consciously look for the positive and the possible even in difficult situations? So those are really good questions to ask about your emotional state. So you can think about emotions not being sort of objective things that exist in nature, that when you feel them, they're just a solid, tangible thing that you should cling on to. They're kind of...
And that everybody experiences in the same. It's like it's a thing.
Yeah, like it's a thing. Like if Bob had said that same phrase to anybody, they would all feel exactly. Of course, they wouldn't. No. We've created our emotional energy patterns, and now our emotional energy patterns are creating us. So if you created your emotional landscape and it's not feeling good and it's draining your energy a lot of the time, well, maybe it's time to rebuild it, because after all, you are the architect.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there is a partial truth that there may be times when you do need to change the environment around you or the people that you spend your time with. And probably the majority of the work for most of us is that inner work, because we always say you have to take yourself with you, so your emotional patterns will follow you wherever you go. Again, we often say, if you get really, really lucky in life and you only ever surround yourself with people who never, ever happen to randomly hit one of those emotional triggers, well, boy, you got lucky. But you are absolutely relying on other people and other people's behaviours again.
And it's never going to happen. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you exactly that. You're totally dependent. So we have to understand what our triggers are and just start to notice how much energy and time you're spending in emotional patterns and energy that is not pleasant for you and is using up energy that could be going towards something creative, something connecting, relational, positive, a passion. We're all doing it a lot of the time.
And it's possibly not even really in service of the thing that you're trying to do in that particular moment. So we can often think, if I think about work situations, for example, I very often talk about the drama triangle with clients. We can think when we're in the drama triangle and we're expending emotional energy.
Just to be clear, the drama triangle is when you're caught in a pattern of dynamics where you feel like somebody's persecuting, somebody's a victim to that,
and somebody's rescuing.
Or one person is shifting into those
And it's a very
familiar
pattern of, let's call it play, in human behaviour and human nature. And when you're in it, you feel like it's the work, like you're doing the work, because you're having to have those conversations with people, the difficult conversations, or defending somebody, protecting somebody,
thinking,
telling somebody they haven't done a good job, whatever it might be. And it feels like this is work, this is what I do. And probably a lot of the energy that you're expending in that is being caught in the emotional game. That is not really in service of the end goal.
And it's not necessarily easy. This is possibly the hardest dimension. I mean, staying intentional is hard, but the emotional dimension is tough, because that's been set from when we're really young. And therein lies the challenge and the reward, because it's just the biggest game changer, isn't it? When you can step out of the dances. I love a dance, but let me tell you, a foxtrot and a waltz are much more enjoyable than the dance.
Some of the dances of life.
Yeah, than the dances of he, she said they are annoying, they shouldn't have, why did they, that is an exhausting dance, isn't
it? And pointless.
And, just much less glitter and feathers. I mean, it's just nowhere near as fun. So, it's easy to talk about this. And for some of us, of course, and for some people, this requires deeper work, deeper coaching, sometimes therapy, to get underneath and really understand. To really understand those patterns. But the first thing that we can do, definitely, is raise our awareness on how much energy, to start with, you might be wasting on patterns such as, I'm not good enough. Do they like me? Have I done enough for them? Am I, people pleasing, basically, going out of your way to people please? Just notice where the emotional energy is getting spent that's not helpful. Notice where negative energy is draining you. So spending time with certain people or thinking about those people.
Sure.
I mean, that's
a lot more than probably spending time with them.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Like the amount of emotional energy that we're spending on our imagination that isn't actually happening. I mean, that is, I think, one of the biggest things about the human condition, that we're either ruminating about feelings about the past or worrying about feelings about the future. And none of it.
It feels real.
It feels real.
And we attach emotion to it. And because of our negative bias in life, we will possibly spend more time ruminating about negative emotions than positive emotions. In fact, I was in a room yesterday with a group of wonderful, wonderful delegates, and we asked them, name us some human emotions. Anger, frustration, sadness.
Those are the first ones that came out.
And it's often easier for us and it's quicker for us to name those negative emotions. And that is the same in terms of our thought patterns and where we go emotionally. We'll often tend to spend more time in the negative. And that's
natural selection. That's evolution.
And it feels real.
And
it feels like perhaps we don't have choice over it. And yet we do.
And of course we do. So exactly that. We can think about, well, can I shift my emotional energy? Without even going into the depths of, why do I feel like this? Or why is it that person, when they say that, really, you can do that work. But equally, We are the sum of our actions.
Yeah.
So you could equally take a moment and go, I can feel the emotion. There's definitely energy going around my body.
Not feeling great.
Yeah. But actually, if you really can just sit for a moment with it and take away the narrative, what it will actually feel like is more like you'll feel an energy pattern. And if you take away good, bad, nice, not nice, which is thought, it will be fast or slow. It will feel hot or cold. It will feel tense or relaxed. Like, we're into very basic somatic experiencing. And then you can go, oh, that's interesting. My heart's sort of racing and I feel quite hot. And there's a sort of hot, energetic pattern.
Yeah.
Well, you feel like that when you're dancing in a disco, don't you? I mean, so, suddenly actually
very different.
We can shift. First of all, we can shift. And then we can go, okay, there's an energy pattern. That's happening. Where do I want to channel the energy?
or conserve it.
Or conserve it. But it can be hard for some people, particularly if you've got a trauma background or if you're hyperactivated, it can be difficult to sit on the beanbag or have a lay down. So you might do something like go for a walk, but equally you might immediately think, I'm going to do something kind, generous, thoughtful, supportive. I'm going to send an email to say how much I appreciate someone. You could literally choose an action in that moment, even though you've just come from the weather pattern of I'm furious. You're just parking the word furious. You're acknowledging that it still feels
something's happening.
Something's happening. There's an energy pattern here.
The energy is in motion.
Come on, we must believe that even in that moment, we have power over our fingers to write an email or our legs to go over to walk to someone else and say, we must be able to do that.
I had something that I used to do because I had a very difficult...
And your action will loop and change your emotional...
Totally, and change your thought process. I had a very difficult period in my life about 12 years ago, and you really did use the 4 dimensions to really sort of take control, and the 2 concepts, to take control of where life was going to go. And I remember writing things down in the emotional dimension that would be helpful, and it honestly was as simple as, watching episodes of Friends or watching comedies. And whilst it may sound like, I'm not in the mood to do that, I'm feeling sad or annoyed, it's a really quick way to change your emotional state.
Well, seriously, I mean, if I put the Weather Girls, It's Raining Men on my, on Spotify, if you play a song that's got a really positive, memory for you or feel for, like, it's really hard to then go, right, no, I'm going to sit through this song, this ridiculously upbeat, positive song. I'm going to sit through it and I am determined that I'm going to stay really angry and cross. It's hard because those things are absolutely tapping into our emotional
100%.
system.
Well, that segues beautifully onto your first tip.
Yes, go on.
Which is, if you're feeling like you're consuming a lot of energy, perhaps negative energy,
taking in difficult emotions,
feeling drained, ruminating, whatever it might be. One thing you can do is use your body in a way to start shifting,
because the body, the physical and the emotions is so connected.
So you can either stretch your arms out, get the body much more expansive, or use a facial expression, put a smile on your face, even though it's a sort of self-generated smile. And then say something like, it's going to be a good day today. Yeah. Rather than looking in the mirror when you're cleaning your teeth and thinking, it's going to be a bad day today. Yeah. Now, it may sound a bit sort of forced and a bit sort of pretend, but your brain doesn't actually know the difference. So it will probably start to make you feel quite different in terms of your emotional state.
Absolutely. A quick word from us at 4D Human Being. If you're enjoying the show, please do click follow so that you can have the 4D Human Being podcast instantly in your feed. And we'd love it if you liked and reviewed us. Let us know what you think.
Please do think of 1 or 2 people that you could share the 4D Human Being podcast with. Somebody who would really benefit from the content you're listening to right now. Back to the show.
And I think that this is a really a fun thing to play with, but also a really, really good challenge to ourselves because, and I go back to, we can really get beautifully trapped in the sort of justification of my anger or irritation or whatever it might be. They're wrong, I'm right. And equally, we can get that, sort of better the devil you know, that when we're stuck in an emotional pattern that's not helpful and we can't see a way out, that actually, in a way, we can become sort of resigned to that stuckness because, well, this is just how it is and this is how the world is. And the challenge and opportunity for us to genuinely play with the idea, exactly as you say, of, all right,
this is what's going on.
What if I put a smile on my face and looked in the mirror? And because the reason I'm sort of pausing on this is because it's a sticky thing, because as soon as we've proved to ourselves that we can change our emotional state, we are now accountable and answerable to
for our choices
emotionally. And that's, that comes with a package, doesn't it?
Especially when we think somebody else should be modifying their emotional responses.
When someone else should be modifying their emotional responses. Exactly, Ped, exactly. So it really is, the challenge, this is like the emotional marathon. It's the challenge to yourself to go, no one else can run this marathon for me.
Exactly.
And I'd love them to, but they're not going to.
And even if it feels like...
They should.
They should. And I'm totally justified in ruminating and taking in this negative emotional energy. And thinking, well, why should I? Why should I take that higher level of consciousness and then change my emotional state? Because then I'm forgiving them.
Yes.
Or I'm making life easy for them.
Or I'm taking the blame on myself. Yeah.
And the thing about this is, the waking up for me on this was, it's you that will benefit. Yeah. You think you're doing the other person a favour, but they will still be managing their own emotional state. You're not in control of that, but you will have a different experience of life as well. And you will be becoming to be freed of being triggered by other people. Yeah. And we know that when we're using up that emotional energy in the game playing, we're not putting it towards creativity.
Exactly.
So we're missing out on so much.
Well, exactly. And I want to come to that in a minute, because I just want to say one more thing about the internal, and then we're going to touch on the impact of you and being a leader and a team member before we give a couple more tips. I want to go to two things. One is, think about who's driving the bus. And if your fourth dimension, your intentional dimension, is not driving the bus, then you, as much as you think that other person is wrong and you're sitting here like the chief of being annoyed, you're actually a victim to that emotion. That is driving you that emotion.
And also you've slightly given power to the other person.
Yes.
You've allowed them to put the emotion in the driving seat.
Absolutely.
So it's then creating your experience for the next 5 minutes, hour, day, however long it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, I want to just mention William James, and who was, in the 19th century. I mean, the Greeks, Romans, Eastern philosophy, like they knew all this from so long ago. So we really just, we just have to keep, it's weird that we don't learn this, isn't it?
We think we're inventing everything.
Yeah, so William James, we need to reverse the way we think about emotions. We don't stay in bed because we're depressed because we stay in bed, was his conclusion. And he really, he was a philosopher, psychologist, the sort of first American psychologist. He went through his own journey of getting to the point of what's the point of life, and went to the point of despair and really worked through, okay, what is this all about? And he really came to the conclusion that you can reverse that loop, that we don't stay in bed because we're depressed because we stay in bed, that our actions have so much power. And of course, we've got there again with the likes of sort of Amy Cuddy and the body science. So in other words, as he said, we don't laugh because we're happy. We're happy because we laugh. I just love that so much. So what actions can you take to what actions can you take,
even if you're
exactly stop thinking and take an action? What action can you take to channel your emotional energy in a positive direction? So let's give a couple more tips, and then let's talk very briefly about the impact in your work life and who we see motivating, successful, happy, promoted, talked about in a really positive way. Like, let's talk 100%. About, it's the Maya Angelou thing, is it? People will never, ever forget how you make them feel.
Totally. And actually convincing ourselves and convincing, some of our clients about that switch that is so important in terms of your success and, promotion. And it's sometimes quite challenging.
Well, you're not taught that in school. You're taught to know stuff.
Yeah,
aren't
totally.
you?
Yeah, so in terms of what we can do, so we've already mentioned, use the body, open the arms wide, change the expression on your face. See how that changes the emotional state.
I love the second tip on
so
this.
Dialing up your enthusiasm by 2 points. So we talk about energy, which is that real hybrid between physical energy and emotional energy. So dialing up your enthusiasm, your energy by 2 points.
And
in response to anything.
Exactly. What I love about that is someone can say, oh, you know, yeah, no, I had a nice weekend. I went to the park.
You go, oh, great.
Oh, how lovely. It was such a nice day.
Yeah, whereas usually what we do is we go in at the same energy.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Nice.
So we call that the energy bounce very often, is bouncing energy off. Just see what happens to your emotional state and the other person's emotional state.
But be more enthusiastic about your own ideas and other people's ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, bingo. I mean, that is a win-win-win.
Totally, and we're pretty good at it often with children. Like children can come
children
home
will show you their rubbish picture.
They made a rocket out of a toilet roll. I mean, barely looks like a rocket.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
And we were talking about this the other day. I think we spend so much of our adult life trying to get back to a place where people will have the same enthusiastic response to us as they did when we were toddlers, that we just had to walk one step and we were the most amazing human being. And now, you know, we can't even set up a business. You know, we can't. There's nothing we can do now. We climb a mountain. People go, oh, right. Well, you know, like, come on, celebrate me.
So dialing up your enthusiasm. Another really useful way to use the body to change the emotional state, we love this one, don't we, is how you're holding your hands. And if your palms are open, you know, even if it's a challenging conversation that you're having, or a bit of
I think we did mention this in the last in the physical, because it's so connected.
If your palms are open versus if your palms are down or held together or arms across, it's just sending a massively different signal from your body to your brain, which you will then attach a different emotion to the conversation that's going on. So will the other person, because their mirror neurons will be lighting up. So just try opening your palms, even if you're feeling tense, frustrated, angry, whatever it might be. That's a really good thing to do, and relax the shoulders as well. And then finally, you said this already, but you love dance. I like listening to music, and I love watching funny programs as well.
Yeah, comedy.
My dog can change my emotional state in a nanosecond.
Yeah, pets, people.
Yeah. So what is it externally and what you're doing, your environment, that could change your emotional state? And you'll know what those things are. And going back to the William James piece, it's just that you'll probably justify to yourself, well, now's not the moment to do that because I'm feeling X, Y, Z. And yet that is the moment to do that.
That is the challenge.
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing. It's if you're in a real grump and you put on that music or watch that comedy show. And also it's habit, isn't it? It's the doom scrolling. And the problem with doom scrolling is that you aren't in control of what's going to come at you. If you're scrolling through the news or a social media platform, you have no idea what emotionally is going to hit you. It's like it's like even going to your inbox. You don't know what's going to come. Whereas if you choose a piece of music or you choose to watch, you know what you're putting into your system.
Yeah.
We need to do a lot more of that.
Yeah, a lot less doom scrolling. Although I think I've said this before on social media, because of where one lingers in terms of the seconds that one stays on a social media video on TikTok or Instagram, that's what they keep giving you. So you and I tend to get ice skating clips, weirdly. Which must be some subconscious thing.
I get poodles.
You get dogs.
I get dogs.
That's it.
But, that is choiceful.
Well, exactly.
It pretty much always there's something that makes me laugh.
If you make that choice, then that's what you keep getting fed. You're on a loop of positivity with the poodles.
Well, and that you can learn from in your real life. Exactly. The loop of poodle positivity. What's not to love? That's going to be the name of this podcast, isn't it? Okay. I just want to say on the physical thing, going back to the William James thing, again, he's amazing. Think of an emotion like anger. Now try and imagine it without tense shoulders, fists tight, locked jaw, and a tight chest.
Yeah,
you can't.
It doesn't feel like anger.
And now think of joy and see if you can imagine it without an expanded chest, an open face, eyes wide, and breath going through your body. You can't.
Yeah,
it's so connected.
It's so connected.
Okay, good. So, Pen, in the last few minutes, let's talk about why it's so important in terms of the impact that you have in the world and the collaboration and working in teams and being a leader, and what some of the things that we see that really make a difference in terms of people who are taking care of their emotional energy, making sure that they are inputting positives and putting out positives.
So first thing to say is about creativity. So your energy has to go somewhere. And very often we can feel like we don't have time to come up with new ideas or spend time on hobbies, or there's things that we never get around to doing.
Those pet projects or dreams.
And we could simultaneously, we can also perhaps be in sort of slightly negative states of mind, sad, frustrated, whatever it might be. That is energy. Those feelings are energy. And the fact that you're not expending that energy on all those creative things will be telling you something about really the choices that you're making in terms of how you're living your life.
In procrastination.
And this is very, very true in teams as well. I cannot tell you how many times I hear that there's not enough time, there's not enough resources to do things. I have an enormous amount of empathy and sympathy for that, because times are tough in terms of budgets and resources and all of those things. And there will be a certain amount of emotional energy in teams that is being expended on unnecessary not game playing, but
or maybe gossip or moaning
and problems in terms of communication and all of these things that get us caught, that is so wasted, because it could be used for wonderful creativity.
So think of it like what your most precious commodity, your energy.
Yes.
And where are you spending it?
Yes. The second thing I would say is we talk a lot about the ego and how we get emotionally triggered in terms of our ego. And I very often say that probably the single most important piece of work that leaders and team members can do is really understanding their ego, understanding their emotional triggers, so that they can get more in control and more at choice in terms of how they're responding to other people, because that will lead to more collaboration. It will lead to us being able to have much more adult conversations, all of those things, and will lead to us being much better leaders. So the emotional responses and the understanding of the emotional self and where we're spending our energy is so fundamentally important.
And I'm going to give my one extra bonus one on energy as a leader and as a team member, actually, because we don't always have to be the leader to have emotionally energetic influence on our team or colleagues, is the infinite increase, if you like, the investment, the return on investment when we really take care of our emotional energy and make conscious choice about putting out a positive emotional energy. And I know it's not always possible. We don't want to get into pretense.
No.
Although we did talk about that earlier, and we were talking about the fact that if you don't take care of your emotional energy, this is a bit of a quick side note, if you don't take care of your emotional energy and do that internal work to make sure the inputs are positive enough and not too draining, and that your mindset and your body is kind of, you're in control of it, then when it comes to standing up and presenting or doing something at work, you will have to pretend.
Yeah.
And that is going to double down on your exhaustion, because that's exhausting. So it's just lose. So if you think about it as a leader or a team member, if you dial up your positive emotional energy, if you take care of your emotional energy, so you've got enough resilience and resource and you're kind of energized enough.
And your ego is nice and strong.
And
your
ego is nice and strong, that you've listened to that music, you've taken some time out, you've done some of these exercises, positive affirmation, you've not doom scrolled or whatever, any of the number of things that you've not seen that person at the weekend who drained your energy, whatever it is. That you've done some work, you've taken care. When you go into work that morning and you've got 5-10% more positive emotional energy to greet people, say hello or ask a question, you are going to dial up all of their emotional energy by 5 or 10%. So if you've got a team of 10 or 20 people, you've just gained 50, 100% of emotional energy, and that's going to go in a really positive direction. So you're going to get such a return on investment as a positive, contagious leader, because you're going to then generate that in other people. That energy is now going to go somewhere much more positive. So you are going to just double, triple, quadruple your energetic, your positive energy in that team. So it is the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is. And in terms of our time and our focus, we very often get caught in the intellectual in terms of what we say, what we do, what we know, all of those things. And yes, it's important. And yet, as a leader particularly, but as a team member as well, if you can get higher self-awareness on your emotional dimension, higher mastery in terms of where your emotions are sitting, and really manage the emotional energy, the positive emotional energy that you're putting out, and restrict the negative emotional energy that you're putting out, an absolute game changer in terms of how you lead and how your team will perform. And it really is.
It really is. Take those minutes at the beginning of a meeting to set the emotional field, and you will save yourself hours, weeks, months, years of your life spent in dealing with discontent or 100%. Conflict.
Well, in fact, once when I showed a group of fabulous leaders the drama triangle, so the game we play with the persecutor, the victim and the rescuer, he looked at it and he listened to me explaining it and how it manifests itself in the workplace in terms of the games that we play. And he just said, that's my job.
Yeah.
And it was such an eye-opener for him in terms of where his emotional energy was going that felt like leading.
Yeah, but actually it was firefighting.
Actually it was firefighting.
Yeah. So we leave you with a dose of 4D fizz, an emotional 4D boost. Take some of those tips. Take care of your emotional energy. It will serve you and give you so much in return. Dial that music up.
Yes.
Go and dance in the kitchen or the office. That'll be contagious.
Well, it's Saturday, Phil. Let's dial up that emotional fizz this weekend.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the 4D Human Being podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Do take on board some of the insights, tools and tips, because every time that you try something new to get back to choice, you are making a vote for the you that you want to become. And I love that phrase, Pen.
I do too. And please do share this episode with somebody that you know would really benefit from the lessons and learnings we've been chatting about today.
And of course, if you're interested in more from 4D Human Being, do get in touch. We run workshops, trainings, online, in person, conference events and keynotes. We've got the 4D On Demand platform for your whole organisation. And we do have a free Essentials membership where anybody can sign up for absolutely free to access some of our insights, tools and tips. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to hear more. We cannot wait to hear from you and to carry on the conversation.